would be fun to kind of hash out what we think is going to be the world of skiing in Utah. Have you thought about this? I mean, you've been doing
extensively. There's been a lot of communication back and forth with colleagues, peers, and ski buddies as to exactly what we're going to face this year. And I don't think any of us really knows 100% for sure.
Right. Does anybody even know 50% of what it's going to look like?
Probably not. And, and it's funny because you look at the press releases coming in from different resorts, not only in Utah, but across the country. And you realize that every one of them is handling this in a slightly different way. And I think it's going to be necessary for folks before they head somewhere to gain a full understanding of just what operational impacts COVID is going to have at the resort that they're planning on skiing tomorrow.
Right. And because there's not that consistency, you're like, what am I doing? Where am I going? Your traditional ski day is so far removed from anything. I mean, whether you're a destination traveler or you're a local skier. I mean, a local skier, I wake up in the morning, I look out the window, I listen to the snow report. Did it snow last night? Oh my God, I better get to the mountain, right? I'm prepared to wait in a snake.
Haven't we all? Yes.
I'm like, okay, what's Canyon gonna look like? I have my routine from 20 years,
and your routine's out the window.
Yeah, you have to make a reservation. Now, Snowbird is not doing advance reservations, but they're doing parking reservations.
I heard that.
Yeah, you want to call it tomato.
Yeah. It's kind of a weird way to go about it, but at the same time, with the limited parking that Snowbird has, it almost makes sense.
I think that's how they backdoored the problem with everybody parking in the canyon.
Sure. And they can balance that because they manage their own on-property lodging,
right?
As opposed to Alta next door, which doesn't own the lodging. So it'd be very easy for them to mix the combination of destination and day visitor to meet their objective.
Well, but now you also have to worry about the parking lots, the carpool lights being full. And I ran over to a bus today. I went to Alta climbing and there was a bus in the parking lot at Albion. And I asked them, what do you know about this season? And they're like, we don't know. We're going to follow COVID guidelines. We're all wearing masks, and they were. And we're cleaning the buses every time. But they're only allowing 20 people on a bus.
That's going to be interesting.
Right. And at the same time, for me, I just hitchhiked up the canyon.
Sure.
Who's picking me up during a pandemic, right?
And whose car do you want to get into during a pandemic?
Yeah, exactly. And so there goes that option. Now I'm waiting for a bus if I don't get a parking spot. So you've got all these people that are going to be parking individually because they don't want to ride in a carpool, and or trying to park in a carpool lot and waiting for a bus. Now that might be an advantage to a resort up the canyon, because then it naturally will limit the number of people on the mountain.
Sure. And again, different resorts are doing it differently. For example, I mean, Alta's being a little more loosely structured from what I've read. They're limiting day ticket sales. I don't see any indication that they are limiting season pass users to having to reserve their days.
Yeah, I heard that.
And that's going to be managed strictly by available parking. You don't make a parking reservation, but when the lot's full, it's done. You're done. Is pretty much the way they're handling it. They're not doing singles lines. They are not requiring people to ride the lift with people they don't know.
Yeah.
Or that they don't want to ride with. So not all chairs will be full. But it seems to be a lot more loosely handled as far as how they're limiting the numbers. They're just saying when the parking's full, the parking's full. Whereas, you look at a place like any of the Vail Resorts properties, including Park City, where they have built their business model so heavily in favor of their season pass product, the Epic Pass, that Epic Pass holders have to make reservations for their ski days.
Yeah.
You know?
And I mean, they're doing this well. If you have a season pass, you get priority days.
Mhm.
And then they've also built in your ability to get a refund based on whether you can get your priority days.
I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah. So if you can't, then you might be able to get some money back.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Well, that's kind of a nice gesture.
yeah, but to try and figure out priority days. Now, I don't know how many locals have gone ahead and purchased an Epic Pass.
Probably a lot fewer than there have in years past, I would
But
think.
they did say that sales blew up over September. And same with snowbird passes. They saw
Okay.
more than in years past for that
Okay.
month. But I also think that's probably because people waited until September to decide whether they were even going to pull a trigger.
That's a fair point. That's
Yeah.
a fair point. People wanted to know what the landscape was going to look like.
And nobody still knows. And I mean, some of the pass products, you have until December whatever to cancel.
Mhm.
I think is that the icon? I think December 6th or
I
something.
think I did see something of that nature. Yes.
I can try and look it up too while we're chatting, but I think the as long as you don't use your pass at all,
Hmm.
you can roll it into the next season. I think once you use it, and I'm gonna double check because I don't want to be wrong.
Yeah.
There's-
I'm going to pull up Alta at the same time because they did something similar. I can
Yeah.
pull that up for you.
The thing about Alta, though, when you think about it, is they don't have gondolas, they don't have trams.
No, true.
People have
True.
figured out how to get around that mountain. And I think of all the areas, it's probably going to be one of the ones that is least impacted.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean,
Or
obviously you have the same indoor dining situations and
Yeah.
stuff that you have
But
anywhere.
they're going to have, did you see they're going to have a food truck?
Yes, I
Wildcat
did.
parking lot.
I did. And I've said for years there ought to be a sushi food truck in that parking lot.
Well, I mean, it would be cool to just line up a few and have, different choices like at a fair.
Yeah.
And get it and then sit in your car or your RV or whatever.
Peace of mind purchasing means that Alta will provide a full refund, no questions asked, for unused 2021 season passes until December 31st.
So yeah,
So
okay.
they're not even forcing you to roll it over. They'll give you your money back if you don't use it by the first of the year.
Yeah, no, Icon is no refund. I think Snowbird gives you a refund, but it'll be a percentage depending on how much you've used it.
And that's logical as well.
Yeah, but you know what? We didn't get anything back. We got credit back to purchase a new pass for this season.
Right.
And I didn't buy a pass this season for Snowbird. So there went any kind of, compensation.
Yeah.
When there was still a good 3 months of skiing that was left.
Sure. And Alta did the same thing. They gave people a staged credit depending on how much their pass was used.
Yeah, but it was, I think what was unfair is they should have given it as cashback or a choice of cashback or refund. And I mean,
sure. And you could have very easily leveled that also.
Yeah.
And said, okay, if you want cash back, you get less than you do if you want the credit.
Exactly.
But,
exactly. Yeah. And I had a Mountain Collective that I bought and hadn't used. I got it at the SIA event.
Sure.
And so I got it at the end of January, beginning of February, had not used it at all. And I contacted them and they went, sorry, you're so, and I thought, wait a minute, you shouldn't be entitled to keep my money.
Well, I mean, their expenses were reduced, but so were their revenues. I mean, they lost their shirts.
Yeah, but I'm not there to fund your thing, to pay your
but
bill.
it also, and I'm playing devil's advocate with you here. Don't misunderstand. Sure. But, I mean, they could all, I mean, the situation was not of their making either.
Well, what I said to them is, hey, can you just give me a Mountain Collective for next season?
Yeah.
Don't give me money back. Don't do, whatever. If there was a difference to be paid, I'll pay the difference. But just apply, I didn't use it at all. Just apply it to next season. And they went, nope. And I said, you know what?
Zero credit?
I will not buy uncollected.
Zero credit.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was
That's
that.
unfortunate.
Icon.
That seems like a fairly poor business decision.
I know. Let's see. They've got the Adventure Assurance that says, roll the purchase price paid for your unused pass to 2122 anytime between September 10th, 2020 and April 11th, 2021.
Oh, wow.
So if
So
you
if you don't, so you've got till the end of the season and not use it.
yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
And I think they sold a lot of Icon passes based on that.
Sure. And, I mean, if they're not offering a refund, if they're only offering rollable credit, it makes sense to extend that period all the way to the end of the season to make up for that fact.
Yeah. And it says, should any eligible Icon pass destination close due to COVID between December 10th and April 11th, they'll get a proportional credit towards the next pass. So assuming that they used it.
That's reasonable too.
Yeah. I think of all the past products, Epic, Icon, Mount Collective, and there's a indie pass too. But I don't know what.
Yeah, and there's also that powder collective or whatever it's called. There's also that.
Is that still I thought that was gone.
I thought it existed still. I know it did last season.
But I think Icon probably stepped up the most, but they had a lot to lose if people weren't going to.
Sure. Well, they've carved out a huge share of the market in a relatively short period of time.
Right. So, but now back to being able to use your pass. I mean, the whole reason people get a season, well, two reasons to get a season pass. One, the convenience of just going whenever you feel like.
Sure.
And two is if you use it more than 10 or 15 times, it's paid for itself.
Right.
So if you're planning on skiing more than a couple of weeks in a season, it's a no-brainer. That's what you do.
Especially with the multi-resort products that are prevalent now.
And now having to make a reservation, just even for a day ticket or for your trip, you lose that. You have to do it with your season pass too.
In most instances.
Yeah.
Not all, but most, yes.
So we've gone back to like stripping us of the convenience of just having a season pass.
That was one reason why I definitely stuck with the Alta Pass this year, is that they are not requiring pass holders to reserve days.
Right. And I think Deer Valley came out and said they are.
Okay.
Epic definitely. And giving priority to season pass holders. So anybody traveling, good luck.
I'm trying to remember Snow Basin. Let me pull that up.
Snow Basin is Epic, I think.
They're Epic, but they also sell an individual Snow Basin pass.
Okay. You know what? The last time I checked Snow Basin last week, they didn't have a plan yet.
Okay.
Tell me if you see it. It's called.
I could have sworn I saw something. Yeah, here it is right here. Snow Basin announced the safety measures. This came out September 17th. Hang on, I'm going to pull out the press release right now. Primarily, we will not be implementing a reservation requirement for our Snow Basin season pass holders. Instead, our aim will be to mitigate large gatherings in bottleneck areas, including lodges in the base area and on the lifts. To ensure a positive and safe ski experience, we will carefully monitor volume during peak periods. During some holidays and weekends, we may need to implement overall volume restrictions. We don't expect this to happen often, but we want to be prepared to restrict numbers if necessary.
Mhm.
This will first include reducing the ability to purchase lift tickets, followed by capping access to the resort for guests. If that occurs, pass holders and guests will be alerted at snowbasin.com. So they're basically holding that in their back pocket, but they're saying they're not requiring reservations for pass holders.
Well, what's hard is Snow Basin is all about riding gondolas.
Indeed. Well, yes and no. I mean, you can, except for Strawberry, you can cover pretty much the whole mountain with open air chairlifts. You've got that new Wildcat 6-pack
Yeah.
that'll get you out of the base area the same way that Needles will, which is right next to John Paul.
But
So
those
you-
are, well, John Paul chair isn't, but if you're trying to go all the way up in the soda can.
Right. If you want to go up in the beer can, that's one thing. But you have, funny, you call it a soda can, I call it a beer can. Wonder if there's any point to that. Anyway, yeah, you're right about that. However, you know, I mean, you've got that whole middle bowl area, Porcupine.
But to get out of Strawberry, it's a gondola too.
Right, that's what I'm saying. The exception to that is the Strawberry area. The Strawberry area, you're only getting to and from with a Gandhi. Absolutely correct.
And yeah, I'm trying to think, but that line is always so long down at John Paul, you know, right?
Not John Paul. I've almost
Earl's.
never encountered a substantial line of John Paul. Now that may be a little different this winter.
It's Snowbird. And it's going to be a whole new world. 20 people on a tram.
Oh, is that the cap? Okay. Yeah.
25.
Well, you know, and to be honest with you, most of the times I ski Snowbird, I avoid the tram as much as I possibly can. You can get to Hidden Peak just as quickly with those chairs now. I mean,
But you've seen when the tram is down how Gadzoom looks.
yes, I understand that there are going to be issues there, but with the limited capacity, hopefully that'll make up for that.
Yes, I know. That's the thing. You know, you can't really use like Disney World as an example because everything's open. You know, you go to Disney, all your rides are open unless one's down for maintenance. When you're skiing, it depends on where this, you know, how much is filled in, whether they've got to do avalanche control, all that
the
stuff.
sun has baked mineral or mineral socked in that you get vertigo the minute you make your first turn. Yeah, exactly.
Or even at you know, at Park City, if the wind shuts anything down, you can't get up on the bubble or the gondola, you're stuck down at the base, but you don't know how much of the terrain is going to be open. So they can't say, well, we're going to just operate at 25% capacity, because your 25% capacity is different on any given day.
Good point. That's a very good point.
So there's so many unknowns. And, you know, I wonder, one of the things that the bus driver said was that they don't know how many people they're going to be driving. Are they going to be locals or are they going to be out of state visitors? Because,
I think you'll see more locals driving themselves up the canyon than we have in years past.
yeah, but I also think we're going to see less destination visitors this year.
Absolutely. I mean, there are a lot of people, and to be honest with you, yours truly included, that I'm not really anxious to get on a commercial airliner right now.
Yeah. Well, I took a flight to Boston in
Okay.
July, and I thought, shoot, if flying is going to be like this, sign me up.
Well,
You know, people left me alone. I had nobody in my lane and nobody over there, and
Yeah.
you know, it was so clean. So
I would normally have to do quite a bit of business travel,
yeah,
but fortunately, in my line of work, most of the court systems are either backlogged or closed still for COVID. So, you know, if I have to, you know, go to a mediation in, you know, in Seattle, those mediations are being held just like what you and I are doing right now. I'm going before the judge on Zoom,
yeah.
you know, so I don't I've had very little business travel that I've had to do. We also have a corporate jet that's our first priority. They'd rather see us use that than fly commercial.
Sure.
So commercial is like a second choice.
I mean, you're talking a family of 5 or more planning a ski vacation.
I know.
I can't imagine what they would have to go through. I mean, okay, let's say they bought their Icon Pass. Now what?
Yeah.
What do they do with it?
And those family ski vacations for 5 have never been easy. Let's not fool ourselves here. It's just even harder now with additional hurdles that they need to jump over.
So do you think people should just like skip their vacation this winter?
I think you're going to see a big decrease in destination ski travel. I think you're going to see a marked increase in drive up ski travel.
Yeah.
Places like the Northeast, I think states like Vermont and New Hampshire are going to do very well.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of pent up demand from people being pent up in their houses.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'm coming back to the RV industry for a second here, but last year was a record without COVID, was already a record for RV sales. This year to date is up 40% over last year's record. The reason being is that people aren't taking those airplane-based destination trips. They basically woke up one day in June and said, we're not going on our August trip with the kids before school starts like we always do because we're not going on an airplane. Honey, why don't we buy an RV and we'll go visit a national park? And so you had a huge number of first-time buyers, which is why the used RV market is basically non-existent right now because nobody had a trade-in. And I think that exact same attitude is going to play over to this year's destination ski business.
They're just going to say, I don't want to plan for this anymore.
Right. They're going to say, hey, we're living in Westchester County, New York. We're going to Stratton for the weekend. We're not getting on a plane and going to Crested Butte.
How do you think that'll affect our ski towns, our resorts?
It's going to interact the same way it impacted them after, March 15th last year? Yeah.
Yeah.
This has been tough for businesses all across our country, no matter what industry they're in. But things like restaurants and what have you have taken it in the shorts, and ski industry is no exception.
Right. But the thing is, when you think about it, we have more information about COVID, but it's the same as it was in March. Nothing's changed. It's like, it's out there. There's a pandemic. There's a virus.
And if you remember, we were first told, remember 15 days to slow the spread? Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now it is lock yourselves in. Now in some places it's lock yourselves in until this disease no longer exists. I mean, there's got to be some happy medium in between the two. I'm deliberately avoiding any political context here, but I just got done traveling all over the country for 6 months.
No, if you avoid large groups of people indoors and here's another thing, and you stay away from people that are sick. Usually if you're with people, you can count on them to be frank with you and say, I'm not feeling really well. Maybe you should stay back. But you go on a vacation, I guarantee you that person who spent however much money they did to come here is going to go skiing. God damn it. And it would take people hauling them off the mountain to say, no, you can't ski today because you have a temperature.
And we saw that, and that was part of the reason, for example, that whole hotbed of cases in the very early stages of the disease popped up in places like Aspen.
Yeah.
If you remember that story.
Yeah.
Is exactly that. The guy was sick and he says, screw it, I'm going skiing. I came all the way from Australia.
Nobody's going to be like, I don't feel well. I'm not going to, if they felt good enough to click into their ski boots, they're going skiing. Because a lot of people.
Is it any different because of COVID? No.
No, because
are the practices that we should be following of washing hands frequently and maintaining a reasonable degree of social distance from strangers and what have you, are these things we shouldn't be doing anyway, pandemic or not?
I think
for our own health.
I think the thought is, yes, it's my health versus your health. And so people will wash their hands, don't sneeze on somebody, that kind of stuff. A lot of it is more to protect themselves from getting sick. Like if I see the little kid with the runny nose, I'm not blowing your nose. I'm sorry, get mommy to do that.
Right.
you know, it's because I don't want to get sick.
Right.
Person who feels okay to go skiing, and I am totally guilty of this. I'm okay. Maybe I have a little sore throat. Maybe I've got a runny nose or whatever, a cough. It's a part of it going skiing.
Guilty. Yep.
I'm not thinking, oh, I don't want to ski because I don't want to get you sick. I'm like, I feel fine. I want to get my day in, you know?
I think locals are going to be a little more cognizant of that than a destination visitor would be. I mean, it's just as easy for you or me to say, hey, I don't feel right today, but I still have tomorrow, or I still have next week, or I still have next month. Or it's not a situation of, hey, I'm here for 7 days. Gosh dang it, I'm going to get 7 days of skiing in.
Right. And I just brought whatever I got on the plane right to there.
Yep.
You know, and it's same. What I think too is they haven't come up and said an official policy yet, but what if you booked a ski lesson in the past? If you cancel, depending on if it was a private lesson, you know, you'd get to roll it to another day. If you had, you know, you talked to them and you were nice, they're not going to take your money. But if you booked a group lesson, you kind of SOL, they might give you another day. But if you're here for a week and you booked a lesson, you might want to show up because you don't want to lose your money.
Right.
And they have not had a policy yet to say, you stay back, we'll give you your money back because we don't want you here.
Sure.
So there's nothing coming out yet about that, you know? So
there's so much involved.
I think, and that goes back to what I was saying is, so the environment that we are all in is no different now than it was in March. In fact, what they say, the virus loves the cold. So March was kind of starting to warm up, but it's still there. It's still out there. Just because a resort opens doesn't mean we're not going to get sick. So
I'm going to throw one more wrench into the situation.
Go for it.
What happens if we get a vaccine, say in January?
That would be awesome. Actually, Katz said about Vail is there is a possibility of removing the entire reservation system if it looks like it's not a worry.
But what do you do then? Do you carry around a little rabies certificate that says, hey, I got my vaccine?
Right. And there's a lot of people that probably won't. And they're like, well, if you all get a vaccine, it's the same mask thing. If you're all wearing a mask, I don't need to wear mine.
Not to mention, you know, I mean, let's say, again, let's use this hypothetical January date that a vaccine becomes available. It's not going to be available to the entire population immediately. So what do you do? You know, how does the resort approach that?
Yeah. Show me your shot.
I'll get a little tattoo right here.
But did you hear that Jackson Hole has thermal imaging cameras?
I did not hear that one.
Yes.
I do remember reading their COVID press release, but I didn't catch that.
Yeah. So they're going to have them in certain places on the mountain to detect whether you're hot.
So we're going to have COVID cops.
COVID cops. Yeah. So they'll, if you're radiating heat and it picks it up, they're going to ask you to leave.
I don't know. I know some guys who sweat like pigs even on a -20 day while skiing. So,
or if you have a hot meal, right? But yeah, so I that's full news to me. I'm like, I hadn't heard of anybody doing that yet, but
that's a first on me. Yes, it is.
So
and again, there's another mountain that relies heavily upon enclosed lifts.
Yeah, the tram, and I don't.
Tram and the Gandhi.
And what?
And the Apervu gondola.
Gondola, absolutely. Yeah. And those are the two modes to get up the mountain. They're
the two workhorse lifts.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And if you're limiting capacity and that line is already ridiculous. And they talk about
again, you got to work as a destination visitor to get to Jackson. I don't think you're going to see. I think you're going to see the percentage of locals over destination skiers at a place like Jackson, in particular, go through the roof this year.
I hope so, because of the Icon Pass the last few years. Jackson is so crowded and so blown up, and lines all the way around the mountain just to, get on the tram.
And I know what it's done. I know what it's done in Little Cottonwood for sure.
Yeah, just
And let's be honest here. If I'm going to be frank, I am no fan of the multi-resort product as an individual resort pass holder.
right.
Kind of screws the situation for those of us who ante up $1,000 a year. But
I know it's so expensive this year, even.
Yep.
I mean, Ryan waited and waited to get his snowbird pass. Usually we get a family pass, but I
Sure.
got my Epic and Sage gets a dependent pass from me and we're just calling it good. And he just got his own. And
That's true. You asked me what I was doing. You never told me what you were doing until now.
I have my Epic and I'm hoping that by the spring, Snowbird will have a spring pass again. So that's kind of my plan is I'll work as much as I can. Hopefully people will still take lessons.
Yeah, you'll probably have a decrease in demand, I would think.
Maybe, but my friend who works at Aspen thinks it's going to be the opposite, that people are going to use being in a lesson as a way to get around the mountain and avoid the crowds. And also,
Well, if they're not forcing you to ride the lift.
well, you'll have priority to ride those gondolas and stuff like that.
Right. And in that sense, it's going to be no different than hiring an instructor to lead you around on a powder day. It's like, don't give me any tips, just bring me to the goods.
Right. Yeah. And that's, that's what she thinks is going to happen. I don't know if are you individually going to take a group lesson when it's specifically stated that social distancing is impossible in a lesson? Just sign that away. We're going to test. We're going to ask you if you've taken your temperature and how you feel. And we're going to ask our instructors to say that too, but they have also not come out to say, if I don't feel well, are you still going to pay me for tomorrow? So
questions.
Do I want to still work? When I only have 20 days of the season that I'm scheduled to work. Am I going to not work on one of my 20 days without getting paid to stay home? I think a lot of instructors are still going to come in and work.
Or are you going to swap the dates?
If they'd let us, but everything is so scheduled out before the season even starts.
Yeah, but it's hard to count on that when, especially if there is spread. Okay, you're sick this week.
Somebody else might be sick.
A healthy instructor to take that day, but that healthy instructor may be the guy who's sick 3 weeks from now.
Right. Maybe that'll happen. I mean, they did a really good job when everything shut down, just done. I was there
so fast.
Yeah.
None of us saw that coming. We got the email Saturday morning that said, hey, we're going to stay open. It's healthy. We're going to stay open as long as we possibly can. And, we all left the mountain at 4:30 on Saturday and said, hey, see you in the morning. 9:00 that night. Oh, well, we're done.
Yeah. Don't come into work tomorrow. It was crazy, but it was, the whole environment was so surreal. When I came to work that day, what was March 14th, all the tables, so all the cafeteria stuff was shut down and they would have some grab and go food. Half the tables were up against the wall and then they had little signs on the other tables to, there was not a soul sitting in the lodge in Red Pine. And I go to sit down at a table that had a sign that said, don't sit at this table. And one of the employees comes walking over and she's like, we're distancing. You can't sit here. And I'm like, from who? There's no here. Go away. I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, they were, and it was just the whole feel of the place was so foreign, and there weren't a lot of people there, and they definitely were wiping down the gondola and spacing people out so you weren't riding with them. And we were so hopeful that this was gonna work.
This was the Saturday?
Yeah, it was that Saturday. And, and I was talking to people and they're all, I have a reservation for a lesson tomorrow. What do you think is going to happen? I'm all, I think you can still come. I think everything's going to be okay. That's what they're telling us. And then everything canceled. So I mean, how is what they were doing then any different from what they're going to do coming up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's so many questions that the resorts can't answer, not sure to answer, don't want to answer,
Or they don't know the answer.
or they don't know the answer and they don't want to scare you off.
Mhm.
And yes,
And that's reasonable.
yeah. No, I mean, I don't think they're doing anything wrong because they don't know. But it's if now's the time that people are starting to plan their winter and plan their vacations. No, I don't think anybody purchased a season pass back in April
Yeah.
like we normally did.
And to be honest with you, I think it's only reasonable that they don't uh, they can't answer questions that they don't know the answers to, but at the same time, they don't want to scare people off. And then going hand in hand with that, they have to make reasonable accommodations to allow people to back out.
Right.
If in fact we have a second wave, the dreaded second wave or something of that nature, they do have to give people reasonable options to back out.
Yeah. Well, we've got a spike in Park City again.
Do you?
Yeah, huge. More than they've seen in
The
since.
Salt Lake Valley started to spike again, what, in August, the end of August, if I was watching the news correctly?
Well,
Again,
they just had a spike, but that was the anti-maskers and everybody going back to school.
Okay.
And we've had a spike because of kids going back to school as well.
Okay.
And they've also, I think the health department was saying is that people are getting complacent and gathering, and that's what's doing it. Is
And
not
that comes because of the sheer amount of time that we've been contending with this.
Yeah.
You know, if this was the 15 days to slow the spread, I think people could handle not getting together in a social gathering setting. But I think after 6 months, I think the complacency is not to be surprising.
It seems like it's going to go back to those times before high-speed lifts. Remember how we used to stand in line for an hour or two for our walk-on?
Painfully well do I
Right?
remember that.
And I mean, now there's no singles line, so you can't be like single.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of
Or as I would do, find a triple near the front of the line and say, "Hey, mind if I join you?" Yeah.
Yeah, can I join you? Nobody's going to want you to do that now, right? And you're not going to cross over.
They're not going to want to do it either, for that matter.
True.
You know, we spent the whole 6 months that we were traveling. I mean, I wasn't living in fear of COVID. I wasn't letting it, excuse me to borrow a phrase that from a tweet the other day that drove people nuts. I wasn't letting it dominate my life by any stretch of the imagination. But at the same time, I wasn't doing things that were stupid either. You know, I pumped gas. I had a bottle of hand sanitizer there afterward. You know, I was just
touch your face.
And these are things, and that's kind of what I alluded to a little while ago. These are things that we probably should have been doing anyway,
Right.
COVID or not, because I don't want your flu. I don't, you know.
Yeah, or
But-
anything else you have. I know, that's the thing. You come skiing, right? Get rid of those like paper masks. They're gonna be no good for you in a winter resort.
No, but how many people ski with a neck gaiter anyway?
I do, right. That's the thing.
Just
Get yourself
pull it up and
they sell
you.
them at the shops, so you don't have to worry about, oh my God, I don't have my mask, go buy one.
I mean, these masks that we're all using aren't, you know, N whatever masks. They're, you know, they're little more than useless,
Yeah,
to be perfectly honest. And a neck gaiter is equally as useless as a paper mask is.
right. So you have that, but at least you're not sneezing on somebody. If you're gonna have to keep it up when you're on a chair. Don't loan your gloves out or borrow gloves from anyone. Right? And keep a little thing of hand sanitizer. I know a guy that just invented a bracelet that dispenses hand sanitizer.
Wow.
I wonder if it's like
pretty cool.
Spider-Man. But yeah, so that way you don't have to reach in your pocket.
That's pretty cool.
Just-
Somebody saw an opportunity,
Yeah.
didn't they?
And so you
That's
squeeze
perfect.
it, dispense, and you're good to go. So it's a bracelet.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. So, so you've got that. You make sure that I know that the resorts talked about having ghost mazes. So there's going to be empty lanes between people.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I think you
Because
just,
you're not going to have 6 feet between adjacent
right.
lanes. So that makes complete sense.
So I think plan on eating lunch and snacks in your car,
Or the
right?
food truck and Wildcat.
Yeah, or the food truck's a Wildcat. I think there should be, what a great, we should start a food truck.
Hey, I'm in. I'm
Um,
in. Tell
yeah,
you what, we'll take the RV, we'll convert it to a food truck.
there you go.
Perfect.
Yeah, and because that's that you get your food, you go in your car, or you pull out a chair if it's nice, and you eat like a tailgate kind of thing. Get back on
Mhm.
the mountain, go skiing. Obviously, no après except in your car, or well,
Mhm.
hopefully you're home by by then, but with your family. So there goes après. Um,
Mhm.
and it's going to be hard to go in to get warm anywhere.
That's, I think, the biggest factor
Yeah,
is the warm up opportunities, and they're going to be largely in your car too,
right,
which I feel for those people who are at resorts where, you basically have to bus from your car.
right.
What are those remote parking, but like Breckenridge, for example, where, it's some ungodly sum to park somewhere near the mountain. But other than that, you're parking on the outskirts of town and they bus you in. It
Right.
could be a
Yeah.
problem.
It's good. You can't just go in for 10 minutes to warm up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's going to be a problem. Not to mention you're lunching at the car or what have you.
Yeah, but at least you can turn your car on, turn the heater on and get
Right. Assuming your car's not parked 15 miles from the mountain. Yes.
right. So that's going to be the challenge. I'm sure we'll sell a lot of hand warmers this year and electric things to warm you up. Or your day's just going to be slightly shorter. But that's the thing.
Electric gloves are the best invention ever, by the way.
Aren't they awesome? Yes. And heated boots, so
Yeah, my feet normally don't get cold. Back when I was a ski patroller at J Peak in Vermont, the coldest place on the
yeah.
planet. Yes, I had boot heaters. I haven't had them since.
They're wonderful. But yeah, I mean, I think, and you
Well,
have,
you're teaching. You're teaching because you're doing a lot of standing
yeah,
around.
I'm not skiing at my level, so I'm not.
And that was the same thing for patrolling. You spent a lot of time finding yourself standing around.
Yeah.
And that's where it got cold.
But we're going to be spending a lot of time standing around in lines.
Lift lines.
Yeah.
Good point.
So it's going to be very retro. Your day is going to be very retro back in the day, right? Not a lot of amenities that you can use, not a lot of good foods that we can eat. So there's going to be a lot of planning a lot more planning that has to go into your ski day, not just a trip.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is true. I'll tell you, some of my favorite days have, as far as lunching goes, have been, breaking open the tailgate of the truck and getting out a Jetboil and making myself a hot soup and just sitting there. And
See, very retro, right?
Fun.
That's like a
Fun.
ski bum thing.
It's fun.
I know. It's all these people that have been spoiled, by Deer Valley and all that stuff that, it's like, it's going to be a hard lesson.
Turkey chili sales are going to be way down this year.
Unless they've got a food truck with turkey chili.
I wouldn't put it past them.
They should.
I wouldn't put it past them. They probably have a catering vehicle for the Deer Valley Grocery Cafe that they could put somewhere.
Right. And they, that was the thing a long time ago. I worked on a piece that I never finished. I feel bad. But it was on.
I got a whole handful.
Got a whole lot of those, yeah. But it was on ski through food. So all of the places at the different areas where you could just ski up and grab some food and go. So you could eat them on a chairlift. You're not going into the cafeteria, so you're not wasting any time of your ski day.
This year, that would have been a long article.
Well,
a lot of places doing that this year.
Have you heard of, other than the food truck, what other?
I haven't, but I think a lot of that is, hey, we'll figure this out on day one kind of thing.
Right.
I think you're going to see it.
And that'll be great because
think about it. How much does it cost them to go to Home Depot, get one of those giant wooden sheds that are pre-built, drop it on the snow next to the lift line, and stick a bunch of cooking equipment in there?
Right. Yeah, and you just like
You
have the little circles that say "stand here," right?
Yeah.
Be here.
You can get that done in days. Literally, you can be from, hey, I got a great idea to we're serving food in days.
and you could even do mobile ordering.
Yep.
So you're on the chairlift. I'm gonna submit my thing, ski down, pick it up. I'm gone.
We call gold miners for a pizza from the top of Collins all the time.
And they're gonna have to have a window for it. Go in really. I mean, they're going to allow people to come in, but I think it's going to be capacity restricted.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to stand
Absolutely.
around.
That's going to be the story of the winter right there in 2 words: capacity restricted.
Yeah. So it's going to be an apocalyptic season. It's just going to be this crazy.
Let's hope it smells like hell.
Yeah, it will be. I think it will be, in a way, because it will be like nothing that we've had to deal with.
But there can be advantages. There can be pluses.
Well, hopefully people decide not to make a ski vacation.
I was going to say, though, I think there'll be far less competition for tracks.
Yeah, that would be really cool, except you have to plan on it the day before, or more than the day before. If it's a powder,
In most cases, yes.
I'll tell you what, powder chasers are gonna.
That's over. That's over for this winter.
No, I mean the website, powder chasers.
Oh, I thought you meant people choosing
Probably
sports. Sorry.
are going to get so popular this year because you're going to need to really figure out when there's going to be good snow. Is it going to be Friday? Well, I need to make sure I get my reservation in by Monday or Tuesday, or I'm not going to be able to ski that day.
So Open Snow is going to double their subs this year.
Yeah. Have you heard anything yet from them?
No. I haven't talked to Evan since I got back in town.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. We'll have to get him on too. But anyway, yeah, I'm sorry that I won't be able to ski with you at Alta.
Oh, you'll come over for a day. You'll reserve.
I can figure it out. It would be nice if the Epic people would figure out a way, if Park City would figure out a way to do some reciprocity with the other, with little.
Can't we all just get along?
It's every mountain is different, and now there's no competition anymore.
No,
Right?
not in the days of the multi-resort pass.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say,
What piece of the pie am I getting is what it is.
and you could say that Icon is competing with Epic, but I don't think so. I don't see it anymore.
It's a different target market.
Yeah.
It's a very different target market. If you look at the resorts, if you look at Vail Resorts properties and you look at Icon Resorts properties, not that Icon Resorts are owned except for Alterra, but it's a different nature of product.
Yeah.
They're a different type of mountain. Your Alta skier doesn't frequently ski Park City, and your Park City skier doesn't frequently ski Alta. Your typical clientele for each mountain.
Yeah, true. I always encourage people to go over to Alta and get a taste.
And likewise, Park City is the one true ski town we have in the whole state of Utah.
Right. Yeah, it's gonna be, I don't know. We'll see what happens. The poor restaurants and bars are gonna struggle. Hopefully, they get a vaccine in January. How nice would that be? But I don't think that's gonna happen.
I'm perhaps more optimistic of that than you are.
Are you?
I think by January, I think we will see it. I think the question is, how quickly will it be disseminated throughout the populace at large?
Right.
How quickly can they get the distribution and the implementation of the vaccine done?
I got you.
I think we'll get the approval. It's a question of how quickly can you roll it out?
So people can still purchase a pass. You think they should?
I think it depends on your individual circumstance.
Okay.
I think it depends on whether you're looking at a single resort or a multi-resort, whether you're looking at a resort in your neighborhood as opposed to a resort across the country. I think you need to look at the individual circumstances. I don't think there's any one clear answer to that question.
At this point, should we be looking at refund policies?
Absolutely. We as consumers should be looking at them, and the mountains should also be looking to do what they can within the constraints of their own finances to be able to accommodate consumer indecision.
Yeah. They've done some. I think they can do more.
And I think the more they do, the more comfortable people will be with buying a pass.
Yeah.
And so it's really a win-win when you think about it. The more accommodating you are, the more you're going to sell.
Yeah.
Okay, more potentially you're going to have to refund, but the more you're going to sell.
Right.
But if the disease goes your way and it does not affect the season as much as some people fear, you potentially reap a windfall in pass sales
Right. And consumer loyalty too.
and consumer loyalty.
If we feel like you've taken care of us, we're happy. It's not going to be a situation where, oh, we don't buy another Mountain Collective because of what you did.
And that's where I have to give Icon kudos. I really do. Again, I'm not a fan of their product, but I give them kudos for being as liberal as they're being to try to inspire consumer confidence.
I think Epic is doing a pretty good job too.
Okay. And I'll plead ignorance on that one.
For peace of mind. It provides refunds associated with not just COVID, illness, job loss, injury, and certain resort closures.
So it's like buying pass insurance.
Yep, but it's included.
If you miss your priority days, do you get your pass refunded or do you roll it?
No, you get a refund.
You get a refund. Okay.
Yeah, you have to submit for it. They don't just automatically give it to you. You have, I think they said 30 days after the end of the season.
Fill out the form, provide a fingerprint, copy of your birth certificate. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, so it's within 30 days of the event. So if you missed your week, you have 30 days to ask for a refund.
So if you're on a ventilator for 31 days, you're not getting your money back.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you're thinking about your season pass at that point. Maybe you are.
Hey, got to pay those medical bills,
Yeah, true. Something's got to pay for it. So yeah, I mean, they're trying. I like the idea that they're actually going to give you money back and not just.
I agree.
Because
that was a shrewd move. I agree. That was a good call on their part.
Yeah. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm doing Epic, and Sage is doing Epic, and I'll probably work more than I free ski because usually I was free skiing over at Snowbird. But come March, sometimes they've gone on sale in February.
Yes.
There might be some sort of COVID release pass or something, where things are starting to open up. We're going to do another push to get people to commit and to buy before this season is over and get another.
And especially because revenue is going to be so off this year.
Yeah.
They're going to be looking for any way to ring that cash register.
Right. And so that's my thinking is, well, hopefully the spring pass won't be as much as the season pass was this year. If you didn't get your season pass back in April, I think Ryan paid like $1,300 or something.
Yeah, that's normal. The passes, if you miss the cutoff, were always like $1,250 or $1,300.
Yeah. But a lot of people waited this year because nobody knew what to do.
Now, Alta doesn't do a spring pass the way the Snowbird does because they don't have the spring season that Snowbird. But one thing you might want to keep an eye out for, they usually offer a discounted season pass beginning February 1st.
Ah, good to know.
It's usually $7.99 or $6.99, I forget which. The price drops on a regular season pass beginning February 1.
Which is nice because some resorts stop selling a season pass altogether.
Correct. But that Alta's philosophy has always been, all right, you just missed half the season, so we're going to drop the price for you.
Yeah, but you don't really. The best half is coming. Shh, don't tell anyone. Yeah, but maybe more resorts will be doing something like that as well.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me because, again, they're going to try to find a way to ring the cash register.
Well, and there's so many unknowns once the season gets started and people actually start like putting it in motion and they see how it's working. Then
and if we do get a vaccine by January, I predict you'll see double the number of resorts doing that.
Yeah.
Late season.
I joke, this is like first world problems, right? We worry about ski season and it's like people are dying and
I was going to say, thanks for bringing that up, or anybody who might watch this recording. I mean, certainly I don't think either of us means to look cavalier with
no,
regard
not at
to
all.
anybody who's lost a family member or those who have lost their lives.
Well, and
But
the economy and your business and all that stuff
absolutely,
is still out
absolutely.
there and still happening. It's just when you're passionate about something, anything.
And I can't think of anybody who are more passionate about their activity than skiers.
Exactly. And so it's not to discount what else is going on with anybody else, but
Absolutely.
it is a first world problem. It's like, geez, will I be able to ski this year? And
Right.
but it brings joy to so many, and winters are long, and it's a way to, I tell you what, March was a very long time after
Yes,
it just dragged on because
that's why I got out of Dodge. Literally within a week of everybody closing,
Yeah.
I was in the desert in Arizona.
Yeah,
I said, the hell with this.
I did some
Patricia,
backcountry. I went out a couple times, did some backcountry.
yeah,
That was
Patricia,
another thing. I mean, that's a whole nother topic, and I've kept you so long, but
no, you're fine.
is the state of the backcountry industry. I mean, sales are way through the roof all summer long, people gearing up literally for this season.
Sure.
We thought that we might see more accidents at the end of this season, March, April, but we really didn't, with all the yahoos still trying to ski,
Right.
I wonder if I did hear from a lot of people that I didn't buy a pass this year. I'm just going to go in the backcountry.
Yeah, there's always that contingent every year. My next door neighbor being one example 2 years ago, but I think you'll see a much bigger number than
right.
And that's a Utah issue. That's not necessarily a Massachusetts issue.
Right. But, yeah, it is definitely a Utah issue. So we'll see if if things become unstable and unsafe quickly with the people that didn't buy a season pass.
And when you're talking about the people who don't have the skills and the experience to be able to,
they just bought a bunch of gear and they're like, buddy's taking me out.
The schmo who's skiing above me in an avalanche zone while I'm on the skin track. Exactly.
Yeah. So that's going to be an interesting thing. So anybody watching this, if you're planning on going into backcountry, please take a course first.
Avi 1, Utah Avalanche Center, sign up, please. Right. Yes.
Get educated on how to use your gear. That's going to be an interesting.
Get educated on having mountain sense and being able to read the terrain and read the snowpack.
Right. I know.
It's your own lives as well as the people who are out there at the same time as you.
And don't be shits. I mean, like the people that have gone out in the national parks and are tagging and leaving litter and doing, setting fires because they can't hang out with their homies in the city. You want to get out because you don't want to be quarantined and you're going to the mountains. Great. Respect that.
I agree. Here.
Don't take your bag.
This has been fun.
Yeah, I'm so glad to talk to you. Thank you. I think there's a lot of cool information. And
hey, Jill, it was a good time. Look forward to making some turns this way.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That was fun.